neither one of us are all that ready for this morning. Good morning. I'm Deborah Leanne.
And I'm Suzanne Joy. And we are talking about the Gene Key 19 this week. And this is from the Gene Key book written by Richard Rudd. And we're talking about the fact that there are 3 different states within each key. And this particular week on the 19th key, the shadow state, which is, operates in our humanity, is codependence. And the acidic state is sacrifice.
That's the spiritual state.
The spiritual etheric. And then the gift of it is sensitivity.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into the meat of it.
Let's just go underground into the human. What I love about codependence is there's a lot out there already, typically from a relational, psychological viewpoint. But the way Richard describes it in teaching this is, I love how he talks about we're all part of a play. We're all part of, we're all playing acts and roles, and there's a script that we're following. And it's basically what I think of, and I know a lot of us talk the same way, is this time-space thing that we're living in. It's not real. We've talked about that in various other conversations about gene keys, but we pretend like it is. So we're living in this false thing, life, this way of showing up every day and following some script that may have been written by our grandmothers and our mothers, or I don't know, our bosses, our husbands and wives. I mean, our peers in middle school may have defined us in a way that's what we have stuck with. And that's our persona.
Ooh.
And we're dependent on that. There was a thing he said in the 64 Ways in the audio collection where he talks about the codependence is where we support each other's illusions. And that just was like an arrow into my knowingness, but I felt it in my body. I was like, how do we do that? But it's the same thing with somebody that is an addict and we support that addiction, right? But it's the same thing when we know somebody is not living their true essence and we just let them be. And we pretend like that's what they're thinking is true versus maybe calling them on it, maybe loving them and saying, I love you and I can't be around you until this changes. Whatever. That's where the tough love comes. And many of us are too afraid of our own stuff to step in and love somebody enough to say, you're hurting yourself and it's hard for me to watch. So anyway, when I saw that about supporting each other's illusions, I thought, oh, how often have I just gone along to get along? What are your thoughts? Because codependence it makes my stomach turn, but not as much as sacrifice. We can talk about that in a minute.
Well, this is one of my personal keys. It's in my emotional development.
Whoa.
So, which is kind of interesting. But it's interesting because he talks about it being the 19th key is the great human stories. It's the story of our relationship to God. And he's like, everybody will stay in this codependency as long as they believe, oh my gosh, this really hit me. As long as man believes in a God outside of himself, the frequency of our planet will remain at the level of the 19th shadow.
Oh my gosh.
As long as we keep praying to something out there.
Yeah.
Because then we're taking the power.
Our power,
which God endowed us with, right? With our creator or whatever.
Right.
And give it away saying, it's all them. It's all
And
that.
this is, I know, and I have had a problem for a long time when I hear, and I have dear, dear friends that say this, but it just makes me, my whole body go, because it just rings untrue in my body. And it's always like, if Jesus wills it, it'll be so. And I'm like, I'm not saying that we get to control and will and create, because we know what happens with trying to
Right.
create
It's
from.
it's a co-creation,
It is. And if
but it's
we
not
are opening and
that,
allowing and making the space for something to happen, then but it's not outside of us, uh, like a tornado that's going to will it or not. I don't know. I feel like there's so much giving up. Like that to me is like sacrificing their God given gifts, knowing, wisdom, light to something that's um, outside of them. Yeah. And we do that with leaders, right?
yeah,
Where we give
yeah.
up there's too many people that are voting for people just because they're like, oh yeah, I think he's going to be a good voice for us. I don't like him necessarily. I wouldn't want to be friends with him, but I really like, you know, what he stands for. And it's this outward externalizing the power kind of thing. So codependence. So how does it show up? I want to talk about it outside of relationship, because I think we tend to, many of us have learned, I mean, we started learning about the narcissists and the empaths
Right.
and our
Right.
codependence and how we play into each other. And that's part of it. But how can codependence show up in other ways besides that emotional way that we support each other or not support each other in our ugliness?
That's a good question. Because I've only really acknowledged it as the emotional side, right? I mean, in my particular life, that's how it's shown up. You know, repressive, being needy, one that's always either clinging or feeling needy.
Yeah, like I can't be myself without you.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So then they're not expressing all of themselves, right? And sometimes they're masters of negative emotion or getting attention, negative attention, just to stir it up.
It's so much drama. Yeah.
I
And
know.
so
That's where the
and that's the other thing is we are codependent a lot on drama. And I notice uh it's becoming less so for me because I can barely watch the drama stuff on television anymore. Like I
yeah,
tune in at nighttime and I'm like, none
yeah,
of this is doing it for me. I'm going to go read a book. So
yeah.
and I'm noticing that because I am less addicted. I remember, God, was it the 80s or the 90s when Dallas and
Oh,
some
yeah,
of those early kind of soap operas at nighttime.
yeah.
And they had, there was this woman that was like Scarlet somebody. She was just an evil everything. And I was just like, what an archetype. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I wanted, I mean, I very curiously, lived through her bitchiness, thinking I could never do that, even though it like was alluring. And I thought, wow,
Well,
I wanted to watch that because I felt like it was a way for me to live an alternative life.
well, that's interesting. And even thinking about how we're drawn to the dramas or even violence, right? And violence is another form of attention. And he says the only way to break out of such patterns is to move into independence. And there's that fine balance that I found in my own life of, because I like became radically independent, like self-reliant, like trying to figure out myself and like how can I be emotionally stable within myself without, riding the waves of everything else. And yet understanding that I'm completely interdependent with other people.
Right. And that's taking us to the next level. So I
Right.
want to stay in the ugliness of
Okay.
those
All right.
silos.
Well, so
So
then the
yeah,
opposite town of neediness is isolationist, is isolating yourself. So
yeah.
they refuse any kind of attention, loudly proclaiming, I don't need anyone.
Oh, okay. I know who that sounds like.
I'm okay. I'm fine. And so then you really literally there's rage, under the surface. I got it. Like actually kind of feels very martyry, like
It is.
I'm
I
not.
can explain. Yeah, I mean, it is. And then as soon as somebody tries to help, I'm like, you're not doing it right, and then I'll push them away. So I'm like, whoa, where is, I mean, how does that serve me? I have no idea. But that independence, I mean, you can imagine a child being like 2 years old going, I got it. No, you can't help me. Let me put my own shoes on, even though they're on the wrong feet. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But we are that independence thing, like, I don't need anybody. That was a strong one for me. So to let
Yeah.
on my guard, because then I would have to like be like, you'd have to see me. You'd have to see my neediness. And I was terrified of somebody seeing that. Ooh, there's
Ooh.
there's one of my things that I'm ready to sacrifice. Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you for bringing those forward, because I'm like, how does this show up for different people? And I think uh we have to understand. I think the only way for shadows to be healed and integrated in a way is by the recognizing and loving that part of
I
ourselves.
see you,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
that
okay.
love and self-compassion, and Richard called it self-parenting, right?
Yeah.
It's that soothing, okay, there's that. And I just, that younger, immature, needy part, or super independent part, self-reliant, I got everything, which isn't true. I mean, we can't live at all by ourselves. We are so interconnected, like you were saying. So how do we take this shadowy thing and flip it to the gift of, this is another one that I really lose. I put my own meaning on sensitivity. And I was just thinking about how this would be such a great workshop to do, because we have a whole thing out there. I mean, the whole world out there is, I'm super sensitive. I have a high sensitivity. I'm one of those extra sensory, what is it called? Extra sensitive. There's actually labels for psychological and
Mm.
physiological sensitivity.
Yeah.
Like the people that have, like, I can't have my socks where the seam doesn't meet just right, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's.
how does sensitivity become a gift? And
Oh.
how does it serve us to choose when we recognize the codependence in ourselves?
Well, the way I've seen sensitivity, and growing up as a very sensitive child myself and communicating with animals, and but I was told, you're not communicating with animals, that's very anthropomorphic of you. But we all have the capability of really tuning into our sensitivities so that we hear the whispers or feel the whispers or know. I call it clarity, intuition. You can call it all the clairs that you want. It's
Clairsentient, clairaudient,
and
yeah.
interestingly, this particular gene key relates, the physiology is body hair. And when people feel something true, some people they feel, yeah, the tingles, or they feel their hair stand on end because their whole body's going, yes, so, and I just got a yes.
Funny, and when something hits true for me, I cry.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch those movies and something just hits you in that moment and tears come to your eyes, and you're like, because it feels so true,
So
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I Richard says this is the future human being. As we move from that state of codependence, we really begin to trust our natural ability to hear and understand the whispers from our sixth sense, as opposed to our physical senses.
So it's like hearing, this is going to be weird, but like sometimes when the heat goes on and it's coursing through the forced air of, I have at the cabin or upstairs at this house, there's a different heating system, and it kind of has a whistle to it. It's kind of a forced air system, and there are times where I swear I hear voices in there, and I just go, huh? And it's almost like, or knowing that the birds, not just imagining, but knowing that the birds are talking to you when you're out there, when they're doing all that bird song. I'm like, so appreciate your music this morning. Thank you for doing that and sharing with me. It's like I feel like the wind has a voice, the trees have a voice. So I love, and I've talked to you before, how fun it is when you see the sun coming through and it hits one of those crystals and it does its thing, and I'm like, hi. There's those extra, and he talks about different energy beings, the angels and the more maybe not so positive ones that are out there just waiting for us to acknowledge and open our sensitivity to them. And I love that. And I don't know if this is part of the sacrifice or is this part, but when you overdo it, one of the things that was struck me very much is you don't go out and tell everybody I'm a channel,
right?
And I thought, oh, it's a very
quiet,
soft, and you will let the person speak, and if they open to what you want to say or how you see or what you're ready to share with them, then you share.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've kind of gone through multiple different layers of, I know I'm a channel, but everybody is a channel. I mean, hello. We've got our own frequency.
Yeah. And how do we, and I think what we do is we support, and I think I even have it in one of my bios somewhere, we support others into discovering and learning to trust their own wisdom, their own ability to receive, guidance or whatever. I just call it wisdom because it's a constant flow, right? So is it, so sensitivity, besides like pulling into that sixth sense, can it serve like an everyday, oh, I know, I loved how he talked about it'll allow us to be in group interactions.
Yeah. So it's helping support that. So you understand your own strength within a group, and you're able to really, because you can feel and sense and be a part of all of it, yet you're not swallowed up by other people's energy. You're maintaining your equilibrium or your equanimity but recognizing you're part of the whole thing, and how you show up affects everything else around you.
Yes, that's key. And I feel like it's less about throwing ourselves into a soup, which we do when we join the unified, or when we acknowledge that we're a part of a unified field. But there's a way of seeing, I'm the salt and I'm coming in to bring my unique Deborah salt into this. I'm thinking about being in a family dynamic, right? When we're sometimes in our families, we kind of get pulled into our old shadow stuff, our old things that are unhealed, or the patterns. I think that's what it is more than anything. It's a pattern that we have developed with individuals in our family. And how can I be sensitive enough to go, oh, those are patterns. I'm going to sacrifice that and still show up with my truth.
that's the work, isn't it? But not like not putting any kind of blame or making anybody wrong,
Yeah,
but
and I think
still,
that's where being around your family and your group is different now. Is it's not about I don't want to be around them. They make me feel this. No.
it's embracing it. It's embracing all of it and the totality of it. Yeah.
So that's the sensitivity. So how does this? We've got. I mean, we're running out of time, but I want to give a couple minutes to this sacrifice thing.
Yeah. When I first heard sacrifice, it really triggered me, I have to say, because it feels almost like martyrdom.
It is.
And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to go, you know. So, but it's sacrificing your sense of individuality and recognizing all is divine.
And it is a form of martyrdom if you think in terms of there are parts of us that need to die.
Right.
It is time for that pattern it just needs to be buried because it's like not serving. And this is I was thinking this morning, so what patterns, habits, things do I need to sacrifice to be around certain family this weekend at the party?
Mm.
Can I still be, I want to be there in my wholeness, right?
Right.
Without having that old pattern run me and drain me, because then I'm so exhausted, right?
Uh-huh.
So that sacrifice, and it may mean I drink less coffee because the caffeine will spin up and then the conversation gets, so for me, what can I do? What do I need to sacrifice, let go, leave behind? So when I go, I am showing up in the way I want to be. So this is very fascinating. And the other thing is this morning, as I was laying in bed, I'm like, I don't have to sacrifice laying in bed any longer if I want to get up and make my commitment. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to find ways to not freak out because sacrifice was always such a religious
Right.
uh
Right. Yeah.
penance, or you have to pay to 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 earn your way into God's love and all this stuff. And I was like,
What?
yeah,
Or yeah, I just thought of the lower frequencies of like, nope, got it myself. I'm good. Yeah, that martyrdom too.
one of the things that Richard talks about is heretic and
Yeah,
the
very
heresy.
hereticky. Yeah,
So I, grew up, of course, in a religious background. And so heretics were like, whoa, those are those people that are going against the grain. And that's what this gene key is calling from us. It's calling for us to go, I call BS on this script. I'm not playing anymore this game.
yeah.
I'm stepping into a different game. If you want to come over here and join me. But I mean, it is being that heretic. It is
And it's challenging. It's probably one of the most challenging things I've had in my life because,
really,
oh yeah, I mean,
without
I
giving specifics, would you be willing to share? What does
sure,
it do?
yeah, for me, how it shows up of um when I was younger, I just wanted to blend in. You don't want to stand out. And I think part of it might be like, oh, I don't want to get bashed around. I don't don't want to make waves over here. But, honoring ourselves, we have to honor our truth, our own truth, each one of us. And so it may sound like heresy to go against the grain. And I think of many that have gone before us. They have mapped out, okay, yes, it might, you're stepping outside the norm, but that's required in order for us to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
And and
And that's
and
why they were all killed.
right, he
Most of
says
them.
he uh he says Richard says, with their hypersensitive muted DNA, they see a new form emerging, and they do their utmost to prepare people for the coming consciousness shift. And so there is this thing that's going to happen when we all tune into our own bodies and tune into our own divinity and acknowledge our sensitivity to one another. That's what I think happens when it's so much to feel, everyone kind of shuts down.
Yeah.
It can feel overwhelming when we don't want to feel it all and then we react to it, right? So how can we get to a stage of opening our hearts without that knee-jerk reaction of just shutting down?
And before we get to that stage, can we love ourselves through the growth? Because we're not going to go there immediately. And this is the thing that I feel like, this patience with ourselves as we're in the process of growing. This is not about we're going to get to this higher level state and everything's going to be perfect forever. We will never experience that as long as we're human. So let's just hang out in, this is part of it.
Yeah.
This is like, there are people that pay money to go whitewater rafting, or to pay money to go down the most mogul filled crazy hills or mountains while they're skiing. I mean, like, they love that crap. But then when they go back to their lives, they're like, okay, I want everything to be easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just like traversed some crazy stuff going down that mountain and you loved it. So how can you find that same? This is stupid. This is part of the juice. Like what you said today, I love that. This is part of the juice of life.
It is part of the juice of life. And what we recognize as some of our greatest sacrifices is letting go of the things that don't serve us any longer and living our lives with honesty, openness, and just embracing the unknown. And what's really, I don't want to get too deep into this, but he talks about the 9 portals of planetary initiation.
Ooh, that's a conversation in itself.
We could do a whole course just on that.
Yeah. So and this is one of the things I want to explain to if anyone is interested in this and wants to go deeper, please go get the book, the Gene Key book. Do you have it? You can show them. Mine is over there on the shelf. Thanks. And because or go to the website and learn, poke around in the resources to start learning more, because
there's so many free resources.
Yeah. And each week that when we're talking about this key, you can listen to the full audio by Richard, where he kind of goes into his languaging of explaining this in about 15 minutes or so. So I highly encourage you to do that. And if you have and if you're more of an expert and you have additional input to add to this conversation, I would love to hear. Oh, yeah. Because this is how we grow. This is why Susanne and I are doing this, because we're each exponentially, growing our understanding of these keys, because we're exploring it from our different views, our different perspectives. So thank you for that. So let's close, because we're getting, I want to, and this is something that I'm going to practice, probably holding this while I'm at the celebration this weekend with my family, some of whom I haven't seen in quite a while. So you clasp your hands and you take your pinkies and put them together. And then you put your 2 index fingers straight up like they're hockey posts or goal posts, and your thumbs straight up. So it's almost like there's an opening there. Yeah. So your thumbs are straight up and down, your indexes are straight up and down, and your pinkies are meeting. These 2 are not touching them. And then you just breathe into it. And for me, it's softening. This Gene Key gets my whole body twisted up. So when you take your breaths, allow your body to soften as you exhale. Breathing into this mudra, this hand formation, allowing it, that energy, to flow through your body, and then release it. Oh, thank you. So if you happen to be at the restaurant with us this weekend, you might see me with my hands doing this under. I will practice sensitivity. I don't even pretend to think I'm going to be at sacrifice, but
And do you want to close with a card today? One,
Yes,
two, or
ma'am.
1, 2, 3, or 4?
Yes, ma'am.
1, 2, 3, or 4?
Ooh, 4.
Okay.
We're closing out of stuff, right? We're giving up stuff.
So I'm going back to our dear sister's deck, which is
Oh,
the
Trish.
Infinite Self,
Mm-hmm.
Patricia Wald Hopkins. This is, it's all playing in the unseen, and we just,
Yeah. And can we be sensitive enough to it? Can we allow our thinking brain that goes, oh, that's not real? You know, that can be sacrificed. That's a part of me that can go
yes. Top, middle, or bottom?
middle.
That's what I was feeling too. Oh, this is good.
Oh, play your bells too.
I
Your
will. Okay, so this one is about presence. Divine presence on earth. You got to see this card. It's gorgeous.
you need your audio just went down though.
Okay, divine presence. And this is all about destiny. You ready? Destiny. Stop superficially living your life. Slow down into a state of divine relaxation and divine presence. Step into your role as co-creator of heaven on earth. And the way you do this is you can find support from essential oils of rosewood, black spruce, frankincense, myrrh, and blue lotus. And I will post this card in the comments.
Yeah. Frankincense, myrrh. I'm like writing them down. Sorry.
Yeah. Rosewood, black spruce, frankincense, myrrh, and blue lotus.
I have them all except rosewood. Okay. And they can support us in accepting our destiny, into being with, into just being in. Well, actually, this is really good because presence means we're just here now. We're not like, see, I immediately go to, well, how do we do that? And how do,
Yeah, be here now.
thank,
Enjoy your week.
thank you. See you the next time.